Fin 103, Investment and Portfolio Management, presented to Ma'am Arlene Tayan, Natividad, Riau. We are group number 5, and our topic is the investment process. But before we begin, I would like to introduce the presenters, Stephanie D. Serrano. We also have Shara May P. Aladino. Then we have Zarina Gian A. Rosales. And of course, Carlene P. Regua. What is investment? Why do we need to study the investment process? What's the purpose? Investment is property or something that is purchased or deposited for future financial profit. It allows to grow wealth but also generate additional income stream if needed ahead of retirement. There are various types of investments, which are stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds, exchange-traded funds, or other options. As a financial management students, we need to study the investment process because we'll be applying this for our future works. Or if we want to invest, we are knowledgeable enough to plan and handle it efficiently and effectively. Investment process. A set of guidelines that govern the behavior of investors in a way which allows them to remain faithful to the tenets of their investment philosophy. That is the key principles which they hope to facilitate outperformance. It is the process which gives investment managers a better chance of making good decisions consistently through a market cycle. The investment process is a set of inputs that are designed to drive and output satisfactory investment returns. It is also the mechanism for bringing together suppliers of funds with demanders of funds. It is a never-ending story of analyzing, evaluating, implementing, and monitoring investment. This will allow the investors to see the source of different investment strategies and philosophies. It will make the investors less confused and it will give them more assurance that they are making the right decisions. Without the investment process, it may lead investors to lose their funds rather than gaining profit. There are 5 processes of investment. First is to analyze situation. It defines the nature and scope of a problem. Here it identifies the current strategies and activities in place to overcome the problem. Example, if you are planning to invest during this pandemic, what would you invest your money with? Would you invest in a tourist company or a telecommunication company? It will make you think what is most likely to gain profit and less risky. Second is to create custom plan. It basically means creating a plan for your desired investment based on your preference. Here, for example, you've decided to invest in a telecommunication company. Would you like to invest in short-term or long-term? How would you do that? Planning and thinking what would be the pros and cons is a part of custom planning. The third process is to determine allocation. Being knowledgeable on where you allocate your funds. It is important to determine where you put your money and what you are investing it with. Monitoring where your funds go is a way of securing it. The next process is to implement plan. Project management tool that facilitates the execution of a strategic plan by breaking down the implementation process into smaller steps. This is the part where you start to execute your plan. The next is measure and adjust. Measure how risky the investment is, then adjust it if it's needed. This is where you see whether the investment is feasible enough and if there's no problem. Then if you see a problem, then you need to make adjustments.
There are 5 components in the investment process. First is the investor characteristics. This refers to needs, financial status, and personal characteristics of the investor. An individual investor or institutional investor. Here, the investor should first establish the investment policy. So investment policy is a written document detailing objectives and constraints of the investor. Second is the investment vehicles. After an assessment has been made of the investor's characteristics, the available investment opportunities must be explored. These are used by investors to gain positive returns on their money. There are some categories of investment. We have the financial assets. These are paper claim on some issues such as marketable securities that are easily and cheaply tradable in organized markets. These are paper assets which is very liquid and convertible into cash such as stocks, bonds, and securities. Next is the real assets. Are all tangible assets such as gold, silver, diamonds, art, and real estate. These are assets that our business or investors own such as land, building, and more. Financial assets are broadly classified as money market and bonds, capital markets and stock, derivative securities, and contingent claims. Money markets and bonds. Money markets are financial assets that represent a creditor relationship with an entity. They are debt instrument of a firm. It is where short-term financial assets having liquidity of 1 year or less are traded on stock exchange. Bonds are generally the least risky and also offer lowest return when it comes to financial assets. Capital markets and stocks. Capital markets represent ownership position in a corporation. It is a place where buyer and sellers indulge in trade of financial securities like bonds and stocks. Stocks offer a higher return on an average but are generally riskier than bonds. Derivative securities and contingent claims. These are tight performance of another security. They have the highest potential risk level as well as highest potential return. Derivative securities is a financial instrument whose value depends upon the value of another asset, and a contract representing a group of underlying assets. Contingent claim is another term for derivative with a payout that is dependent on the realization of some uncertain future event.
Strategy development. It is an element that will optimize the competing constraints of the various investment vehicles and the investor's characteristics. So this is an investment strategy where investors seek the highest possible expected return within the constraints of the desired cash flow, risk level, and liquidity. Of course, when establishing or growing a business, it is important to have a clear plan on how to achieve your goals and how to improve the company's growth that can help it to operate efficiently and effectively. Dito sa strategy development, dito natin pinag-aaralan yung mga bagay na makapagpababa ng return sa isang investment, just like cash flow, liquidity, and risk level. When developing strategy, some investors would like to avoid as much risk as possible. Of course, wala namang investors ang gustong mas mataas ang kanilang risk sa kanilang investment. So, they need to plan and develop strategy to lower the risk but higher the return of their investment. There are some concepts of this strategy development. We have the asset allocation and the security selection. Asset allocation. It is the proportioning of an investment portfolio among various asset categories such as cash, bonds, stock, and real estate. Do not put all your investment in one basket, meaning you need to invest your money in different types of investment, just like cash, bonds, stock, and real estate. So, hindi naman sabay-sabay o pare-parehong malulugi ang mga investment na ito. Pwede isa sa kanila ay mawala ang iyong investment o malugi, pero yung mga iba dyan ay mag-grow ang iyong investment. In short, asset allocation is an investment strategy or a technique that aims to balance the risk and reward by dividing the assets among the different types of an investment. After the asset allocation has been developed, securities must be selected in order to construct the portfolio and populate the allocation targets according to the strategy. Security selection. It is the process used to determine the specific securities within each asset class that are most suitable for a client's needs. It involves the performance of security analysis and a portfolio management. So, security selection is very important for the investor to have more knowledge and information that provides about the future direction of prices about their investment. So, proper security selection can generate profits during market upswings and weather losses during market downturns. Under security selection, we have the security analysis. It consists of analyzing past performance and the evaluation of future prospects of individual investors. So meaning, it is an analysis of various tradable financial instruments. So it is an investment which keeps the principal safe and on top that delivers a return. So dito, tinitignan nila yung mga past performance ng isang investment. Then they will evaluate and predict if this investment is a good prospect in the near future. We have also portfolio management. So it is the analysis of potential portfolio in effort to find the set of securities that best meets the objectives of investors. So it involves the building and overseeing a selection of investment that will meet the long-term financial goals and risk tolerance of an investor. So, kung investor ka, you have your own objectives. So, for example, sasabihin mo na in the end of 5 years, your stock will be able to grow around 40%. So, you need portfolio management. You have to manage your portfolio in order or to be able to reach those objectives. We have also strategy implementation. After a strategy has been developed, the asset allocation decisions are implemented and the specific securities selected. So an investor must also decide the best course of day-to-day strategy implementation that is the most cost-effective way to acquire the desired financial assets. Meaning, after strategy development, it's time to process of turning your strategic plan into actions in order to reach your desired outcome of your investment. And lastly, we have the strategy monitoring. So it is the periodic re-evaluation of the approach being developed and implemented. So meaning, it is the process of regular observing and recording. So after mo siya i-implement, imo-monitor or i-maintain mo na lang. So strategy monitoring is important to help in identifying the most valuable and efficient use of revenues.
These are the three key participants in investment process. First is the government, business, and individuals. These participants can either be a demander or a supplier of funds. First is the government. Both local and national government needs large amount of money to finance capital expenditures like long-term infra project or also called infrastructure projects, such as road buildings, schools, and hospitals through the issuance of different types of long-term debt securities. Also, government needs to fund operating costs that keep it running. Normally, these funds are sourced from taxes and fees collection of treasury bill. In case where operating expenditures exceed government revenues, or if government receipts are not yet available to meet government payments, government resorts to borrowing funds by issuing short-term debt securities. If government has temporary idle cash, it sometimes makes short-term investment to learn positive return. As such, government becomes supplier of funds. Second is the business. Most business require big sums of money to support operations in both long and short term. On the short term, funds are used to operating costs like financing inventories and account receivables. Long-term needs of businesses are concentrated on seeking funds to develop products, building plants, and buying equipments. Financing these needs required businesses to issue a verify or debt and equity security. Like government, business firms also supply funds if they have excess cash. At the same time, they are both net demanders of funds since they demand more funds than they supply. Lastly is individual. We are more familiar to the fact that people need money in the form of loans to buy property like cars and houses. Yet, individuals supply funds to help meet the needs of both government and businesses through deposit in savings account, purchase of debt or equity security, and buy insurance or various type of property. As a group, individuals are net suppliers of funds. They put money into a system to circulate.